welcome to another episode of Carta de Viner. Today with a special coming all the way from Brno. I believe, Nicola, you could introduce us to our guest.
Yes, thank you, Serena. So today we have the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Jana Horváthová, who was born in 1967 in Brno in the Czech Republic. She is a historian and museologist, as well as the co-founder in 1991 and current director of the Museum of Romani Culture, a state-subsidized organization as of 2005, with its headquarters in Brno, in addition to the Roma and Sinti Holocaust memorials in Lety near the city of Pezek and Hodonin near city of Kunstad. In her scholarly work, she focuses on the history of the Roma in the first half of the 20th century. She is interested in a historic group of Roma who came to the Czech lands in the late 17th century and who were persecuted by the Nazis during World War II. And she thus concentrates mainly on oral histories. She lectures on the history, spiritual, and material culture of the Roma and has authored chapters from the history of the Roma, published in 2002, the testimony of old postcards, published in 2006, and the book we'll be hearing about today, which is Treasure of the Roma, The Secret of Romani Jewellery, published by the Museum of Romani Culture in 2016. And she is also the author of They Are Painful Memories, which was published in 2021. So I'm now going to hand over to Jana, who will speak about the aforementioned book. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning. And I will start. Treasure of the Roma. The Secret of Romani Jewellery. Amare somnaka in Romani language. Jewellery is probably the most visible, glittery, even bombastic feature of the Romani culture. The fact remains that it used to be a practical thing, ensuring the preservation of the family. It was an integral part of the way Roma looked and lived. It is an external sign that harbors symbols and insinuations that, through a subtle web, lead to the very essence of the real treasure of the Romani culture. First part. Gold gives strength. Enola Chrom from Czech Republic, I quote, "A number of Roma lost their gold by gambling. For some Olach Roma who do not have any gold, it is psychologically difficult. He is not wearing a ring. Oh, I should pray. Gold gives strength to the Roma." Sovnakai or somnakai means in the Romani language gold. This gave rise to the word for jewellery, somnaka or sovnaka, at least in North Central dialect of Romani language, which I know a little bit. Jewellery has been an integral part of Romani clothing since time immemorial. Roma from various groups and subgroups have always been different from each other, sometimes significantly. All claims, therefore, need to be related only to the particular group or groups. Generalizations could be misleading. Nevertheless, some cultural features are common to all of them, as they are shared by Romani population all over the world. One of the cultural areas which manifests common features of various Romani groups is the relationship to jewellery, more precisely to family jewellery. Members of Romani groups would forge an emotional attachment to jewellery of their ancestors, which is highly atypical for their approach to anything tangible. Roma used to attribute special strength to gold and silver jewellery, protection against evil in all its forms. They also believe that the jewellery passed on to them by previous generation accumulated the legacy and energy of its former owners, and in this way, by being passed on, the jewellery got the status of magical objects. They could work as a family treasure. Nevertheless, at the time of distress, family jewellery could be exchanged or sold for basic necessities such as food, because life is the highest value of all. Romani jewellery have also their symbolism. The Closest Romani relatives in the country of their origin, India, are so-called Doma or Domani. They belong to a network of castes and subcastes for which we can find, in terms of way of life, common feature with the old life of the European Roma. Indian Doma or Domani, especially the nomadic groups, still carry as did the Roma their property with them, more precisely on them. Jewelry is not only decoration, but it becomes a guarantee of survival and insurance for bad times. For people traveling the world with their wagons and horses, the accumulation of property was not an option. It would unnecessarily burden them, and so did the jewelry made from precious stones become the most convenient way to store valuables. It goes without saying that both clothes and jewelry of the first European Roma must have been influenced by the journeys they made. Let's compare the Islamic jewelry from the 19th century, from the Middle East, or an Arabic jewelry present in the collections of the Moravian Gallery in the city of Brno in Czech Republic. The first European Roma could have worn, without doubt, Byzantine jewelry or jewelry influenced by the remote East Asia and its culture. We learn about Romani jewelry from written records that prove the arrival of Romani groups to the Central and Western Europe in the second decades of the 15th century. It is evident that Romani appearance, on the whole, impressed by its originality. The descriptions show us fear from the unknown. Dark skin and Romani clothing were not among European traits, which corresponds to their journey from India through other Oriental areas. Their clothes must have shown traces of the road they had traveled, of sleeping in open air, etc. An Italian historian, Ludovico Antonio Muratori, published in 1730 an old record about the Roma presence in the summer of 1422 in Bologna. I quote, "They were the ugliest breed ever seen in this area. Their women wore shirts and had their shoulders covered by rough clothes. They wore earrings in their ears and long veils on their heads." Older men in the Burgundian town of Arras give a colorful description of group of 30 gypsies who in October 1421 stayed 3 days and slept over in the field without getting undressed. A medieval writer wrote that their appearance had little to do with European fashion, and women and children have circles in their ears. Chroniclers of that time see earring circle in the ears of the Roma, not only women and children, but also men, as something exotic. In the speaking coat of arms of one of the aristocratic families of the Czech kingdom, especially from estate Čermná, named Cikánové z Čermné, in English, gypsies from estate Čermná, we find a bust of a black gypsy on a red field wearing circles in these ears, based on the source gold or silver. Wearing circles in his ears to be the central motif of the family coat. A circle in an ear or both ears is worn by Romani men even nowadays, especially by dancers, musicians, or by those who wear traditionally or Romipen symbolizing clothes. Circles ranging from simple silver thin circles to thick and massive hollow gold rings have been popular and literally till the present day, with all age groups of Romani women, the young generation in particular. Second part, group and its leader, the man and the tokens of his power. Romani communities have always had its hierarchy. The most respected ones were elderly men with life experience and wisdom, capable men whose prowess manifested in their tangible possessions, as well as in the authority they had in the group. Jewelry or other objects made from precious metals were therefore reflecting a man's position in the group. The leader would have numerous valuable jewels in terms of the weight of gold and silver jewelry. His jewelry became in reality tokens of his power. A Romani representative part of clothing was often a massive silver chain with coins. That is why it is referred to as a Vaida chain. Men would also wear a watch on a massive chain or chains with coins commonly attached to it. They would keep it in the pocket of their jacket or their coat. Most importantly, jacket and coats of respected men were decorated with silver coins, even in several rows, or with big round buttons. In Romani language, kočaka. Kočaka, buttons embellished with stones or carving, as well as relief decorations. They would not close, they served as a token. Gold or silver currency, coins, became a typical part of Romani jewelry. As such, they fulfilled various functions. The gold or silver coins remained a form of payment, but they were also decoration jewelry, which completed the attire and was its integral part. And Olah Rom Lovar from Czech Republic, I quote, "My grandfather had 24 buttons. They were silver bigger than fist, with green and silver stone decorations on them." And that cost a fortune. It was impossible to wear. It was decorated with a snake, stones in between. He kept them at home. Then he had those silver coins and ducats, even gold. He also had small buttons that he would wear on his jacket, but only on festive occasions, a wedding or a baptism. Who had it? It was Barvale Roma, in English, rich Roma. But not everybody could afford it. Then he had those 2 cups or pots, one for 2.5 liters, the other one for 2 liters. But those were silver. When there was a big party, for example, a wedding, he would use it to drink from with the one whose daughter he would get. They drank white wine. My father's father had it done and left it for my father because he was the oldest.
That's beautiful, Jana.
Another token and de facto jewelry of respected men was, and sometimes still is, a stick. In Romani language, bakuja or pachuja or laska. The most respected member of the tribe, its leader, kept it. A stick symbolized his dignity and wisdom. A stick like that, ostentatiously decorated with gold or silver, had, apart from the practical use, a symbolic function as well. It was a scepter. A stick had its role during family ceremonies. People swore on it, but couldn't sell it, as it either remained with its owner during his funeral, or it was passed on the oldest son during a ceremony during the owner's life. A snake, a frog, or a lizard are among animals believed to possess magical powers in the Romani tradition or spiritual culture. At the same time, they might represent impure powers. A snake, however, had, thanks to its strength, the position of a magical barrier at which evil fights evil. Similar is being treated with similar. Maybe that is why a snake appears on Vaida sticks, buttons, etc. Depictions of demons embroidered on textiles were used in a similar way. They had the function of an amulet, discussed further. In the Olach Roma groups, elderly and respected men still used the stick in the spirit of their tradition. On one hand, it is a walking stick. On the other hand, it is still of a symbolic and spiritual value. One of the symbols of the leader of the group was also a ceremonial cup. Its function points to a fundamental part of Romifen, spiritual culture of the Roma. The cup was of service during ceremonies, which, by the way, upheld the unwritten tribal collective system of moral norms. Rich animistic ideas about the world which did not contradict their Christian or other declared opinions were relatively deep-rooted in many of the Romani groups. The old belief in impure powers that was related to the tasks of everyday life, as well as to ceremonies of the Roma, was probably of this origin. The set of collectively respected standards of rules supposed to prevent at all costs a contact with such dark powers, whatever form they have. The rules or moral code, which the set of customary norms definitely was, contained regulations how to keep the pure, ritualistic pure. If anyone was seriously guilty of the moral code, he was labeled unclean. In Romani language, he was prasto or magerdo, and was temporarily expelled from the community. Readmitted person could, as a sign of purification, drink from the cup that was at the time shared between the Vaida and respected men from the group. The cup was used by the Vaida for other family ceremonies, for example, engagement, wedding, baptism, and so on. The ceremonial pot or cup was in the most sumptuous examples a massive silver mug or jug with a lid with reliefs on it in the form of scenes from the life of the group, heroic deeds of its ancestors, or of the owner of the cup. These containers were procured second-hand or were custom-made. Jewellery, together with sticks and cups, carried in the relief decorations, symbolism pointing again at the spiritual world of the Roma. The only surviving cup of this kind in the world is a silver cup purchased at the end of 50s from Slovak Olach Lovara Rome to Central Slovak Museum in city of Banská Bystrica. Others have been preserved, at least in photos, and the memories of witnesses. Yes. Olach Rom Lovar from Czech Republic. I quote, "My grandfather was very rich. He had rupune, it is silver cups, and those buttons, when he was dying, handled with horses and passed it on to his sons. Back then, they sold it in Slovak town Partizánské to buy houses. You could buy one house for a cup like that. Usually, they had it custom made to give something to each child. Me, for example, I have something made for my grandchildren every year. I have their names and the year carved into it. Third part, ring, a token of allegiance. Male rings had often the function of identification. They were a token of group allegiance and tribal profession. They were also symbol of honor and wealth. Czech Sintorom from Czech Republic, I quote, you could tell by the rings how barbalo, how rich a person is. When I had that gustrin tringraje in Romani language, gold ring with horse, everybody knew immediately, oh, we are talking to a horse handler, a businessman. Fourth part, amulets of health and good luck. Amulets as decorative objects, pendants of all shapes, often pouches with textile and a patch snake and Jimson wind seed inside. These amulets as decorative objects with magical protective function were worn by various Romani groups quite commonly and were connected with spiritual notions. They originated in a deep well of mythical ideas of the Roma about the emergence and existence of evil. The old Romani amulets, made of various materials, metal, wood, textile, leather, etc., have largely repetitive symbols, a snake or the moon with numerous five-pointed stars, symbolizing blessing for children. Similarly decorated wooden pendants were worn by childless Romani women who were trying to conceive. Another variant is a hole in which a walnut was placed. Romani fortune tellers and de facto herb women were, for the purposes of magic, using the so-called drap, Romani language drap, from the word tedrabarel, tell the future. That could be medicinal herbs as well as any other objects of biological origin, for example, frog, lizard, or an artifact created for the purposes of the given magical practice. Romani amulets had also the form of figures, for example, wooden or terracotta demons, the agents of evil, or figures made of wax. The woman has wax trap. Out of many demons, the most numerous ones were the demons of nature. They live in trees, on the roads, in rivers, under the ground, and at many more other places. In traditional animistic Romani belief in natural forces, ghosts and demons, we can look, even though with little evidence, for certain common features with Hinduistic animism and its wide range of gods. These deeply rooted notions were, however, passed from one generation to another till the present day, even if the Roma are nowadays official members of Christian or another church. Romani believe in the special power of jewellery made of gold and silver intertwines with the belief, even a superstition in supernatural forces, and more precisely in the Christian God and other saints. In the traditional households of various Romani groups, we can still find the so-called holy corners and the traditional opening lines of Romani fairy tales start with the sentence, I quote, "My sweet, blessed, and always just God." God is mentioned in Proverbs, etc. The female Christian symbol, the Virgin Mary, is also highly valued. She often appears on Romani jewellery. The Roma have also their female goddess, the patron Saint Kali Sara, who, according to the legend, saved the Roma, and they consequently go on pilgrimage to southern France, to the coastal city of Saint Mary de la Mer. Another accidental or logical parallel with India resurface George brings, thinks that the Indian Domini worship especially female gods, among whom the Mother Earth repeatedly occupies the center of their origin, occupies the center of their religion. The most worshipped ones are goddesses Kali and Devi for this Indian Doma or Domani. In the field of Romani magic, we can find practices that make use of the protective powers of metal objects and fire, individual as well as in combination. Various forms of jagalo pani in Romani language, literally fire water, meaning water that would contain some features of fire, or various objects that went through the purifying power of fire, water with burning cinders, etc., were used against spells. Children were protected against being bewitched by spa water that was poured on a child through a shiny blade of a scythe, in the belief that demons cannot cross the blade. Water with silver or gold ring in it was supposed to have healing power as well. Children who weren't yet baptized got under their pillows or in their blanket a metal object, such as scissor and so on, so that they would not be stolen by a wicked old woman, a supernatural being. In Romani language, this woman is so-called gulidai or bosorka, who substituted the stolen children with less accomplished ones. A mother of a newborn baby, not yet baptized, would put around her child's left wrist a red ribbon or a twine with a red beads, so-called indralori. Red ribbon is Romani language to miriklore, in English, beads, as a protection against being bewitched. Similar practices against various spells are still carried out by various Domani groups in India as well as. Fifth part, a magical miracle. A necklace made of beads, in Romani language miracle, is one of the oldest types of Romani jewellery. It can be a string of genuine stones, for example, amber, turquoise, etc., or more frequently, or various colorful glass or wooden beads of very distinct and bright colors. Various Romani groups were attributing magical importance to beads, and they would wear them in the function of an amulet, either by itself or with a pendant. Amulet, Romani language, in Romani language drap, as a part of the string of beads. Not only women wore the beads around their necks, but so did young boys on the wrists of their left hands. They believed that they would sleep better, they would have more luck, and would be protected against spell, against enchantment. In Romani language, teperel jakhenda, against teperel jakhenda. Some already have been wearing these jewels out of habit without being fully aware of its meaning. Sixth part, the waves of the rich jingle with gold. Women wore jewelry from precious metals and especially from gold more than men. Their traditional gender designation required beauty and related decorativenesses, but more importantly, a woman decorated with valuable jewelry visibly confirmed her husband's standing. The most typical was once again coin jewelry, worn in necklaces or in combination with beads from amber, red garnets, or red glass beads, tangled in hair into pigtails, as hairbands, as embroidery on skirts. Skirts with coins, it is in Romani language, socha galbenca. These coins could be on blouses or on luggage. Coins as jewelry appear in a number of ethnic groups. It is not particular characteristic of only the Roma. For them, however, as well as for the majority, coins jewelry has become literally a symbol. Jewelry made of coins completed the stereotype of a gypsy woman. Coins are an integral part of the clothes. In numerous depictions of gypsy women, as the artists from the majority imagined them. Seventh part, the wedding. Wedding, a demonstration of tribal treasure. The confirmation ceremony of a couple's life taking place at a church, at a town hall, or just in line with all tribal customs, connected with an expensive feast and festivities for the enlarged family, is a wedding. In Romani language, dia. It is one of the climaxes of Romani existence which corresponds to the festive clothes and accessories. For some groups, a wedding is an actual occasion to demonstrate family possessions. Similar importance was associated with other family ceremonies such as baptism. At baptism, gold jewelry has been traditionally given to the newly baptized babies, earrings, gold medallion, pacifier, etc. Biaf is, in any case, an exceptional opportunity to present family jewels because for the Roma, it is connected with presentation of well-being and plenitude. A family that does not have enough money to organize a wedding prefers not to do it at all, and the young couple lives unmarried rather than humiliate themselves and their families by a modest, badly prepared wedding that would become the source of gossip. Baptism is, on the other hand, perceived as a necessity, and it must take place even in poverty. Eighth part. You can tell a bird by its song. You can tell a Roma by his gold. Czech Syntorom, I quote, "For me, gold means that I am a real Rom. You can tell a bird by its song, and you can tell a gypsy by his gold. A real Sinti Rom must have gold rings. You can tell Romes by the gold, if he is Barbalo or Gero. In English, if he is rich or poor Rom." From the numerous Romani groups that live all over the world under various names, we choose one purpose only the groups that stand out on the subject of jewelry, those that still decorate themselves with specific jewelry. They are more or less communities that kept the nomadic way of life the longest because a life in a certain distance from the majority enabled them to keep most of their customs. Ninth part, Olach Roma. The Olach Roma in former Czechoslovakia uphold their traditions in relatively higher degree, as opposed to rich people from the majority who trust bank accounts. The Olach Roma still prefer to protect their property by investing it into a beautiful and highly representative gold family jewels, which fulfills other functions than just a deposition of one's fortune. Olách Roma Lovara in Czech Republic. From the Olách Roma, it is mainly the group of Lovara or Lovari, former horse handlers, from Hungarian word lo, it means horse, that still live on the territory of the former Czechoslovakia. They came to the Czech Republic for good after the World War II, and they started to settle permanently from the forced termination of nomadism during the communist regime in 1959 in Czechoslovakia. Although there are not many of them, they represent roughly 10% from the overall number of Roma in the Czech Republic. Their local color makes them a very prominent minority. Common expressive gold jewellery, full of specific patterns, is one of the visible features and telltale signs of this Roma. An Olách Lovara Rom from Czech Republic, I quote, and also traditionally for the Olách Roma, gold a symbol of freedom. They feel good, healthy when they are wearing gold. It is supposed to chase away illnesses, diseases, and it also makes you happy. It is a symbol. I am superstitious. That is why I had gold teeth made. Olách Roma Caldera. There are Lovara, jewelry from Lovara from Czechoslovakia. And there are Calderara. They include groups of coppersmiths, tinners, and tin coaters. The Calderara or Calderash Roma used to belong together with the Lovara to the relatively richest Romani groups. Metal products as well as horses were paid for with money as opposed to products and services of the majority of other Romani groups that were paid in kind, for with food or with gifts in the form of second-hand clothes. The Calderash live nowadays all over the world. A lot of them live, for example, in Romania, in Bulgaria, Russia, or in Western Europe. So Romania, yes. Tenth part, Russian Roma. A big number of various Romani groups have lived in Russia. The Olách Calderash Roma, cauldron makers, coppersmiths, belong to the most prominent ones. From Russia, they also went to Finland and Sweden, and in the 20th century to the USA. Russian researcher Nikolai Bessonov, who has been systematically collecting knowledge and visual material documenting the history of clothing of Russian Roma and also jewelry as its part, has prepared a diverse demonstration of the interest of various Romani groups in jewelry. Eleventh part, Finnish Roma, Kale. There are about 10 to 12,000 Roma living in Finland, belonging to several tribes. A prominent group is that of Kale. They came to Finland through Russia and the Baltic countries in the 16th century. The group, and women in particular, are due to their clothes truly unmistakable. The current majestic and historical clothing of the women from this group evolved during the 20th century, with the baroque features of the Finnish folk costumes mixed with Romani specificity. People not only keep this tradition, but such clothes are evolving. The most suitable accessory is old family jewelry, or its newer replicas, which also has its clear symbolism. It is rooted in the empire jewelry, but it is much bigger and heavier, reaching up to the length of 7 centimeters. Precious and rare pieces of jewelry of this Romani group have historical value, 100 to 150 years old, often coming from Russian Tsar's goldsmiths. Jewelry is always made of gold. Earrings have also stones, often cameos or their imitations, gemstones, or colorful glass, and they are decorated with drop-shaped pendants. Another kind of earring shape is a circle. Women wear necklaces of very similar type and length, made on a thick chain with 3 original stones set to it, often blue sapphire, violet amethyst, red ruby, which symbolize 3 directions of the journey of Roma from India to Europe. "12-part jewelry makers. In the past, and even nowadays, Roma have had their jewelry custom made at the goldsmiths of their choice, who were respecting their wishes and tastes. Basically, every bigger city with a larger community of Olachlovára Roma in the Czech and Slovak republics has such a goldsmith or goldsmiths. Jewelry makers can be, however, found among the Roma themselves. For some, such a production is continuation of the family tradition. The fact remains that work with metal has been among the most typical professions: blacksmiths and armorers, artist blacksmiths, coppersmiths, tinners and tin potters, bell makers, tinkers, grinders, tinsmiths. Then there are also Roma belonging to the professional group of argintara in Romani language. It means silversmiths. From Romanian arginta, silversmith. One working with silver. Silver is in Latin argentum. Some of them make replicas of gold jewelry. Not all of them, however, make this unpopular fake gold. Some have become interested in fashion trends and give a green light to their artistic and technical talents. Some of the current Romani jewelry makers get to produce through their artistic ambitions and their own production. Certainly the most famous of them is Rosa Taikon from Sweden, from original Calderage family. Rosa Taikon, in the area of the former Czechoslovakia, it is especially Monika Voncemi from Bratislava, from Slovak Republic, who makes representative art jewelry. This is Malgorzata Mirgatas. He is famous.
That is beautiful, Jana.
Visual artist, yes. Or Nicole Taubinger from Prague, from Czech Republic, who produced unique jewelry from secondary waste, especially plastic. He's originally from family Czech Sinto Rom, from historic Roma groups. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a really beautiful journey and opens up a lot of subjects for us. Thank you for also touching on the Romanian groups. Hopefully we can expand on that in the future. And I just want to come and see the museum now.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next time we are going to meet with a Romanian writer called Marius Turda, and we're going to talk about his book, Looking for the Perfect Romanian. I'm în căutarea românului perfect. So that's a talk that is going to come in August. So please stay tuned. But in the meantime, thank you for following Carta de Vineri and wishing you all a really good weekend. Thank you, Jana. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.